As a kid, did you ever play in an area your parents told you to be careful in? Well, you're actually lucky to be alive today. Today we'll be talking about a PSA that traumatized a generation of children. Apaches, released in 1977, directed by John McKenzie, is a PSA short film from the United Kingdom that follows a group of children playing on a farm. And throughout the film, numerous accidents occur, claiming the lives of the children that we watch. And these accidents are pretty brutal. Before we fully jump in, if you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, it's good to see you again. Now, it might be obvious in the title as well as the intro, but this movie does depict the deaths of children. And while the deaths aren't gory or graphic, it is still a sensitive illustration as well as topic to go over. So if that's something you're not okay with, I understand skipping this video. I'll miss you, my babushka. To everyone else, let's get into it. Apache starts off with an ominous soundtrack and a voiceover from a child, who we later learn is narrating the group of friends playing, and we get introduced to the children through the narration. We follow Kim, Sharon, Michael, our narrator Danny,
Who's Danny? Sorry,
Chief, and Robert and Tom. Also, the way Danny describes everyone is kind of funny to me, because he describes Kim, Sharon, and Michael with certain descriptions that match up with their imagination that they're playing along with. But then for Robert and Tom, he just says Robert and Tom.
9. Apache women weren't just squaws, they often fought too. Tom, Robert.
I think it's a good illustration of how kids show their biases in their imaginations. Like my friend right here is dressed up as a knight in shining armor, and then Gary from down the street is, Gary from down the street. I was Gary down the street. We see the kids pretending to be Apache warriors, hence the name Apaches. Ding ding ding, we reference the title. It's like us being, like, fantastically, for.
It's fantastic.
But we some kind of spot.
We see the kids scream their war cry, running all over what looks like a comfortable village. Through the muddy streets and hills, they come across their next enemy, a mighty tractor. But luckily they plan out a strategy to get behind it. They hide until the beast passes, and then Kim is able to get on top of it. I really want to point out that I think this PSA does such a good job at illustrating a child's imagination, because as an adult who has to pay bills, I can still understand what the kids are picturing in their heads right now. But that cold reality of bills in real life that I mentioned hits the kids in a fatal way, and thus we get into why I'm covering this PSA, as well as the warning I issued earlier on. Yeah, as Kim stands up, she loses her balance and falls off the tractor, leading to her abrupt death. The sound design is perfect, reaching its climax and then going completely silent while showing off the group of friends' reaction of just pure utter shock. And to hammer the point in on how abrupt the death was, the next scene abruptly cuts to school, showing a hand taking down Kim's name tag. The narration from Danny just talk about his dad's shoes, as well as his mom's blouse. You see, in the beginning of Danny's narration, he points out that his parents are having a party. Some sort of boring adult party though, so he's not too excited for it, which is going to be one of the running themes in Apaches. But continuing the trend of ignoring death, the children are recorded just talking amongst themselves about white elephant gifts. Mind you, this is like 30 seconds after we just saw Kim die. In this scene, I think the child actors really shine, as their conversations feel like real conversations kids would have. There's some obvious parts where it's like, okay, that's where the script is, but still, bravo to these kids who are now adults who are older than me, so, bravo to the adults. The children go on with their mischievous play. Ironically, the tractor can be seen in the back while they're playing, and the game that they start playing is hide and seek. Our narrator Danny is the one who's seeking, and as he keeps being successful in finding Sharon, we get the sense that something bad is going to happen. Which is amazing, because for like 5 minutes it's just them playing around, but the whole time you think something bad is going to happen. As we see Danny chase Tom, we see cow manure get shoveled into a giant pit, filled with more cow poop. Does anyone see where this is going? As Tom attempts to hide from Danny, he slips and falls into a pit of cow manure. And mud, I'm guessing. Well, that's being generous. It's probably just cow manure.
Ah!
The scene ends, and we cut to children playing at recess. Quick break, because this is pretty heavy, which is why it's strange to me that it's rated PG in the UK. And on top of that, reportedly it was shown to a whole generation of kids. Mainly middle school, but I saw some reports of kids seeing it way earlier than that. So if you're from the UK, let me know if you guys are okay there, because geez. Alright, that was my little tidbit of information. Back to the PSA. After Tom's death, we cut to a scene of children playing at recess. While the kids play at recess, we see either a teacher or Tom's parents clear out his desk. Danny then jumps back into his narration, talking about his parents' party again. He goes more in depth about how he doesn't enjoy the adult party, because he just finds it boring because all they do is talk, eat, and drink. No one plays games anymore.
That's not what I call a party.
And then like after Kim's death, the PSA goes back to showing the kids just playing around, ignoring the death completely. As we see the kids playing, it's obviously down a couple of members. But the vibes the kids give off is like nothing ever happened. However, Danny does slip at one point here.
But there's only 5 of us, so we have to be both. But there's only 4 of us. Yeah, 4. Are we ready, men?
But then immediately brushes it off. With first viewing, I found that pretty heartbreaking because I just pictured that as a kid dealing with trauma in a way a kid can understand, which is I guess by not understanding it. But at the end of the video, you'll see that there's a different meaning behind it. Regardless, playtime must go on. And now that we know that the film will show brutal parts, the feeling of paranoia is constantly in our heads. And the director knew this and played into it as well, with even more foreshadowing. I almost compare it to like Final Destination foreshadowing, but on a much more tame level.
Shut up, Brownie!
But luckily the day goes on without any accidents, and the Apaches get to do their war cry again. As we continue to watch the kids meddle around, they find a random bottle that they call firewater, which has liquid in it, but they have no idea what it is. But they want to do a cheers after a long day of play. They're still playing pretend with the liquid. However, Sharon suggests that they just pretend to drink the liquid instead of actually drinking it, because that was an idea that was thrown out there because these kids are really smart.
It might be poison.
I know they're kids. And when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure I had to get like my stomach pumped because I ate pills, because I thought they were candy. I don't know if my mom wants me to share that or not, but it's out there now. Anyway, Sharon's suggestion that they should pretend to drink it is smart because it could be poison. Very well could be poison. However, the kids don't fully confirm if they're going to pretend to drink it or actually drink it. So after the first 3 boys take their cheers, Sharon quotes,
I forgot.
But luckily she spits it out right away. And the conversation following shows that she's okay. I mean, see, she seems fine, right? Right? Sharon returns home, and the last thing we hear from Sharon is this. The next morning, Sharon's room is getting cleaned out, and the film cuts back to Danny talking. Again, just talking about how it's mainly just adults drinking and just sitting around. Now, on par with this movie, it cuts back to the kids playing, but now it's just Danny, our narrator, Michael, and Robert. They play in the fields with their toy guns, and again, there's a lot of fake outs. Like, Michael almost gets run over by this goddamn machinery that's everywhere. It's like these tractors put out a hit on these kids. It's weird. The KD ratio on these things is crazy. The inevitable death eventually comes, and it would claim the life of Robert.
3. Freeze! Double look out! Ah!
Now, something I noticed when watching this was the first time one of the kids actually gave a warning before something happened. Obviously to no avail, but still. The movie then cuts back to the party Danny is talking about, and we've been getting glimpses of it whenever Danny talks about it, but it's been like up close shots of like hands and watches, so it's nothing too particular, but this time we see a bit more. This party seems to be full of people very nicely dressed, and back to the kids playing, but it's just Danny and Michael this time. Danny sets off on a little adventure, while he asks Michael to stay back and watch the camp. As Danny ventures on, his narration continues, talking about how the Apache forces fought on, and how he will gather more Apaches and they will survive. We see Danny get on a tractor, and as he pretends to drive it, the tractor gets released off a park and starts barreling down towards a ditch. The only thing Danny could do was scream for help, and we see Danny and the tractor crash. The scene then cuts to a quiet house, with Danny's mom looking off in the distance. A man comes in and tells her it's ready now, and then we cut to the funeral of Danny. This is the first funeral that's been acknowledged in the short film. Michael stands by and watches, and Danny's narration resumes, talking about the nice party that his parents are having. Here is when Danny reveals that Michael is his cousin, and at the end of his narration, he states he wishes he was there for the party. Now, I've given a couple of warnings about the film itself, but now here's another warning because the film ends with real life things. Not showing anything, but simply a child's name, their age, and how they died. And after a couple of names and how they passed, it just starts listing children and their ages. And as we can see, that list is long. This PSA's goal is to warn parents as well as children about the dangers of playing on the farm. And I think it nails home that point perfectly with a quiet dinner table, showing a real list of young victims who never got to live their lives out because of accidents. I think Apaches does an amazing job using fear as a way to warn parents to be more diligent. Because throughout the PSA, there are adults around, however, they are extremely ignorant to the children. The adults acknowledge the kids, and they play around with them, but there doesn't seem to be too much care around them. I think it's also good for children because it does a good job at saying, hey, watch out for your environments because you might be in La La Land, but the world isn't. My grandpa had a farm, and when I was a kid, I would play around there. But I remember the safety lessons my grandpa told me, as well as my dad. Plus, I was always under supervision by my dad, grandpa, or one of my grandpa's friends.
You like jazz?
Like the time I was told to go feed cows, and then I had a bucket of cow feed, and then I saw a swarm of cows just coming towards me, and I was terrified. I was 10, by the way, but still, I was terrified. So I dropped the bucket, and I ran towards my grandpa, and my grandpa and his friend were just laughing at me as they were driving away slowly, just watching me getting chased by cows. That was a fun memory. At least I lived. Apaches capitalizes on the children's ignorance of the world, as well as parents whenever they don't have the eagle eye on their child. There really isn't much gore, but the shocking nature of each death scene makes it so horrifying. And to add on to that eerie feeling, the sound design is perfect. It jumps from lighthearted and fun to off-putting and paranoid. And it really puts the film in a horror sphere. But again, the UK rated it PG. But that's where I'll leave it with you guys. Do you think Apaches does a good job as a public safety announcement? And regardless of the PSA, did this movie creep you out? To me, it just made me anxious throughout the whole film. And then obviously sad at the end. But that's impressive because I'm dead on the inside. If you were forced to watch this, please let me know, because I really want to know what that was like what the classroom was like, how your day was afterwards. Like, were you able to function as a normal child, or did seeing children get run over and drowning in poop and then poison, did that like alter your mind for the rest of the day? Also, do you think we should show kids today this? Because, you know, I don't have kids, so fuck it, why not? Traumatize the shit out of them, it will make them stronger. Trust me. It definitely won't give them any mental issues or anything like that we have to ignore later on when they become adults. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, a like, a share, all of that really helps me out. Especially because this is a bit different. I know I cover weird and creepy media, but usually I do a couple of them in one video. This time it's just one in-depth look at this. But I thought this was interesting. And I'm such a big fan of older media that isn't intended to be as scary as it is today. If you have any suggestions in that realm, let me know, because I eat that up like a I was going to say turkey on Thanksgiving, but that's not how that goes. My sources as well as the movie is going to be in the description below, so if you want to watch it, go for it. If I earned your subscription, then I'll see you next week. Alright, stay vigilant on farms and don't drown in cow poop. Good luck.
She thinks my tractor's sexy.